I'm Tim Nicholas with Wood-n-Whimsies. Welcome back to my workshop. Today we're going to discuss the operation, cleaning, and maintenance, so forth, of this dedicated pen drilling chuck that comes from Penn State Industries. We use them here at Wood-n-Whimsies quite extensively to drill the blanks that Tracy uses for her inlay blanks. We drill anywhere from several dozen to as many as 100 blanks per day with this chuck, and we get this chuck will only last us about a year before it gets a little loose and sloppy, and we have to throw it away and get another one. But to mount this on your lathe, you'll need a washer. The washer is not super critical. You don't have to have it. It will save you a lot of trouble at the end when you're trying to get this thing off of your lathe. You won't have to get out a hammer and a chisel and try to break the chuck loose from the head of the lathe. You'll be able to turn it off with just your twist of your wrist. So this just screws onto there after you get that washer on there. You can use a piece of paper, cardboard, anything. What you want to do is prevent this metal to metal seat right here. What happens is that metal to metal makes contact and it binds up, and it's very difficult to get things loose from it. Another thing you're going to need a drill chuck with a drill bit in it of your particular size for the pen that you're going to make, whatever you want to do. Like I said, we do drill 27/64 here mostly for Tracy's inlay blank, so that's what I'm going to use today. Just stick it in the end of your, sock that into your tailstock. We take our blank and slide it in between the jaws here. Give it a good tighten. I usually put it on hand tight, and then I'll take the Tommy bar and just give it a little pinch, just like that. That's all you need. Don't take both Tommy bars and wrench this thing down as tight as you can get it. You don't need that. All you're doing is wearing out the chuck and prematurely sending it to the graveyard. All right, so we got that set up there. We're going to bring our tailstock up until it meets the end of the blank, and that'll get us in a position where we're ready to drill a hole in this thing. A couple things about this chuck. In addition, is the particular lathe that you need to use. I'm using a Jet 1024, which is probably the smallest lathe that I would ever want to try to use this chuck on. There are lathes out there where the threads on the headstock are 3/4 16. They do not make this chuck in a 3/4 16, and for very good reason. A lathe generally that has a 3/4 inch 16 thread head on it does not have enough oomph to adequately turn this blank and drill it without burning up the motor in it. So if your lathe is a 3/4 16, you do not want to buy one of these. You can't use it on your lathe. But anyway, when we turn this thing on, I'm going to have the lathe running at about 500 RPM. That's as fast as it needs to go. The reason being, we don't want to generate a lot of heat. Heat just does two things. One, inside the blank, it will burn the ends of our blank. It's not really something you'll notice until you get right down to the very end and turning and making the finishing passes on your pen blank on the lathe, and you'll notice that the ends of your blank are going to be a little discolored. That's because you burnt them on the ends when you were drilling it. Also, like I said, you want 500 RPM. You need a lathe that'll handle it. And then let's get started here. We turn the lathe on. Now I turn this lathe on. The audio on this camera, when it hears these really high piercing, shrill noises coming from this bit going through this piece of wood, it may mute the audio. So if I'm talking about something, it's just it's probably going to dampen it out. So I'll anything important that I say, I'll put the words at the bottom of the screen so you can see them, see what I'm saying. But anyway, you just turn the lathe on, and then it's going to be self-centering. All right, let's get started turning this thing. Turn on our lathe and introduce the bit to the blank. It's going to be pretty much self-centering. There she goes. A little bit of chatter at the beginning. We're trying to find its center. Then it'll equalize itself out. Back off a bit. And then we have to readjust our tailstock. So we go back inside the blank again. Some of the larger lathes, floor stand lathes, you got enough quill in your tailstock where you can go all the way through in one pass. But with this little lathe, it's going to take me a couple of bites to get it in there. You start to smell things getting hot, so let me back that off, get rid of the chips out of there. And continue on through. And I believe we're all the way through the back end of it. Just to make sure, let me loosen this up, just kind of give it a push. Yep, we're all the way through. All right. Sometimes what will happen with this, when you're trying to back your lathe back out or your drill bit back out of it, what will happen is the blank will pull out with the drill bit as you're pulling it out. And what has happened there is you've got so much dirt inside the lathe here, or inside the chuck, where it can't really get a good grip on things, and the vibrations will cause the jaws to back off just a little bit. And then, of course, when you pull your drill bit out, it pulls the blank out with it. So in that case, if that happens, all you got to do is stop the lathe, take your little Tommy bar, and give it a little bit of a snug twist there, and you should be able to pull your drill bit right on out. All right. All right, we're going to remove our blank now. Just give the back end of it a little bit of a twist. Take the blank out, and as you can see, we got a hole that goes all the way through. As you can see with this chuck, as evidence on this particular blank, the blank is not square. It's I don't know, trapezoidal shaped or whatever, what have you. But when you drill with this particular setup, no matter what the shape of your blank, as long as it's not round, you got to have some corners for the chuck to grab a hold of. But it will drill straight through. So many times with a drill press, you'll notice that you'll start with your hole centered at the top, and when you get to the bottom, when you pull the thing out, it's going to be almost coming out the side sometimes because the drill bit's walking inside there. That's not just something that happens in wood. It happens in metal also. If you try to go too deep with one bit, it'll do the same thing in metal. But in wood, with this setup here, your bit's going to be straight through. I don't understand the physics of it. I'm not an engineer. I don't know, but all I know is it works. So we're going to take our chuck off now, and we're going to bring it over to the other side of the workbench, and we're going to clean this thing out. I'm going to show you how to disassemble it, clean it out, and put it all back together properly so that the next time we use it, we get a nice centered drill again. So just give it a turn. Of course, with that washer on there, it's real easy to break it loose, turn it off, and there it is. And if you can see down inside there, it's pretty darn dirty in there. Not the back side is just about as bad as the front side, but we're going to show you how to take that apart and clean that up. All right, we got this thing off of our lathe, and we're ready to kind of clean it up a little bit here. Some of the tools you're going to need. You're going to need some oil to lubricate it up a little bit with. You might need the Tommy bar, I don't know. It depends on how grimy this is trying to get this thing apart and whether it hangs up on us. We might need the Tommy bar to rotate it. You're going to need a nylon brush, a stiff nylon brush. Do not use a wire brush. Wire brush will wear your threads prematurely, and that's not a good thing. So this thing should be cleaned quite often. So you don't want to use a piece of metal on there trying to scrape things off of it. This is I guess what's the brand name there? Quickie. Comes from Walmart. Cost a couple bucks. You get it in their cleaning section, and like I said, it's just a very stiff nylon brush. So, all right, what we want to do here to get this thing apart, pick up our chuck. The back side of this, or to get the dogs, or the jaws, you want to call them. In the machinist world, these are called dogs. But you'll turn the the chuck clockwise on the back, and the pieces will come out. There's one, there's two. You see all the gunk that's down inside there. We're going to clean all that out. This is really dirty down inside there. Pretty nasty. And this has only been used for maybe a couple of dozen blanks. All right. If it goes all day long like we do here, we drill 100 blanks for this thing. It's really bad. So this thing gets cleaned quite often here to keep it in good operating condition. So what we do is take our wire brush, our nylon brush, and clean some of that sawdust out of there. Make sure we got to get inside here, up in the side here, where the rails are at, where our dogs slide. Make sure we get everything off from inside there. Turn it around, get the other side, get all up inside there. You see all this gunk that's falling all over my little paper here. Take the brush, stick it in the back side, rotate it around in the threads back there, clean that out. Yeah, this is really bad. Take the brush, stick it down inside to engage into the threads inside the chuck. Rotate the chuck so that we get a hold of all of that debris that's in there. Clean it out real good and blow it out. If you have an air compressor, it doesn't hurt to take a compressor and an air tool and blow that thing out of there real good. But get all the dust out of it on the dogs, or the jaws, if you will. We're going to clean all that crap out of there on the ends of these. In the slot that holds the blank, it's nice and clean now. Clean the little tracks on the side of them that run on the rails inside the body that holds it straight. Clean the threads. Make it all nice and pretty again. And same thing with the other one. You know, all the crap we've got down in here in the bottom of it. Just clean all that out. Rail slides again. Threads. Get everything all nice and clean. And we got three nice clean pieces to work with here. We didn't have to use our Tommy bar, but I said sometimes you will. When you're trying to get this thing apart, it'll hang up on you and you'll have to use the Tommy bar to give it a little help. So, I'm going to put this thing back together, but before we do so, I want to take and put a little oil into the threads here. I'm going to put a couple drops here on one side, a couple drops on the other. Rotate it about 90 degrees. Put a couple more little drops in there. That's enough. You don't want to get too much in there. It just gunks it up if you get too much. All right. We put this thing back together. The body of the chuck has numbers on it. There's a number 1 right there, if you could see that. And then there's a number 2 over here. All right, what these numbers correspond to is the numbers that are on the dogs down inside the track here on that one. If you can see it, yeah, there it is. There's a number 1 in there. And then on the other dog or jaw, there is a number 2 down in there. These have to be put together in a proper position and in a correct sequence. If they don't get put together in the right sequence, in the right position, when you're finished, your chuck will be off just slightly, just enough to where it's not going to be centered, and everything that you try to drill with it is just going to chatter and make noise, and you're just going to swear that this is the biggest hunk of junk that was ever made, and you want to get rid of it, okay? So, what we're going to do, we take our number 1 jaw, that's the number 2, here we go, the number 1 jaw. I'm going to rotate the body of this thing from the number 1 position, and I'm going to find the leading edge of the thread. Rotate, rotate, rotate. There it is. There's the leading edge of the thread. If I don't know if you can see that or not in the video. There's a little leading edge of the thread right there. Rotate that little leading edge till it's up underneath the back end of the body here. And I'm going to introduce my jaw, number 1 jaw, to the number 1 slot, and then rotate the back till I get past the first thread on my jaw, and it's locked in place. Won't come off. All right, do the same thing on the other side. Rotate until you just see, there it is, the leading edge of the thread coming out of the back, out from underneath the jaw right there. Then take our number 2 jaw, put it in the number 2 slot, slide it in there, hold it in place, give it a little turn, and there you go. Everything's all put together now. Now as I'm turning this, my oil is lubricating all the threads of everything. You see this thing's really, really easy to turn and spin now. It's spin, I can just kind of spin it with 2 fingers and it works really great now. So, and that's how you take care of that particular piece of equipment. All right, it's ready to go back on the lathe and drill a few more blanks. All right, there's another type of chuck that you may have in your shop. This is a Nova. It's not, you don't have to worry about what sequence that you put the jaws in on this particular chuck, but you do have to worry about which position that you put them in. Each one of these jaws in here, or the dogs that are on this thing, under the bottom of it have a number, numbers 1 through 4. And if you'll see, this is the number 1 position right here. If I pulled this jaw off and looked into the bottom of it, I would see a number 1 under there. And then there's a number 4 right there, number 3 and 2 and so on, okay? So make sure when you put this together, the number 1 goes in the number 1 slot, the 2, the 2, the 3, the 3, and the 4, the 4. Everything matches up. If you don't, when you tighten this thing up onto your bowl or pepper mill or whatever you're trying to turn, you're not going to be in the center, and it's just not going to work properly for you. So any jaw that that you buy that has moving parts in it like this, they're all going to be matched. The jaws are matched to the body, and those numbers are very important. They have to be in those positions. So whether you have a 4-jaw chuck, a 2-jaw chuck like this one, you have one that has 3 jaws, whatever, you have to match the numbers. And in a case like this one, they have to go on in a certain sequence and in a certain position.